Hello everyone and welcome to English 120 Week 4. I apologize about the delay in getting up my lecture this week. I had a problem with the technology, so I had to reinstall the technology and it's all set now. So this week we're going to start talking about the argumentative essay. We're going to be reading two essays. One is about argumentation called Argument, Critical Thinking, and Rationality, and it's found on pages 114 to 134 in the Conscious Reader, and Peggy Orenstein's What's Wrong with Cinderella, which is found on pages 64 to 74 in the Conscious Reader. You'll do a discussion forum. You will also do a journal reflection, and we did have a required library visit that happened today. I was so happy to meet some of you in person. If you did not make it to the required library visit, there is an assignment posted. Please make arrangements to get a tour of the library from Stephanie Gross. There's information on the assignment, but if you have questions, just let me know. You'll also be completing comp class this week, locating research for various types of information needs. Alright, so don't forget to actively read all the assignments that you're reading for this class. Before you read Argument, Critical Thinking, and Rationality by Joseph M. Williams and Gregory Collum, make sure you review who the authors are by reading their bios on page 114. This is an important step, guys. And you want to predict what the article is going to be about. You should also figure out when this article was published. There's a big hint here that you should look on the copyrights page on 742. So what they're talking about in this article is all about what an argument is. And I love this idea of a shining argument. The original meaning of the word argument was to make clear. Latin for silver, argentum, comes from the same root. What is clear often shines. It's a really good image to come back to as you're learning how to write logical arguments. An argument is a way to cooperate to solve tough problems. And it's something that it's not one person going against the other. The idea behind a good argument is that it's a way to collaborate to find a mutual solution. Critical thinking and argumentation is a great on-the-job skill. It's, as I talk about in the article, it's something that employers are really looking for. Someone who doesn't just, who is open to understanding the views of others and to understanding the larger conversation at hand. But there's a lot of uses of argument. You can use it to convince others to think or do as you say, right? That's the most common one we know about. But you can also use it to help you yourself decide what you should think or do. If you are really following the process of argument, doing so will give you patience to gather all the information. You won't make a rash decision. It will give you skepticism to not accept something at face value. Someone tells you something, you don't just believe it, you look into it. It gives you the logical ability to use facts as evidence. It also it encourages you to seek facts that contradict your own conclusions, and it gets you ready to change your mind, which is a very important part of being a scholar. Whenever you write down an argument, it gives you time to consider it. It makes you check your facts and the logic that you're using, and it makes you interact with others, even if it's doing so on the page. It really helps you think through what you're doing. Critical thinking, the word kritikos, which is a Greek word, means to judge an idea by separating the evidence, the facts, from your feelings or the feelings of others. The reality is that feelings alone can never prove a thesis. No matter how strongly you feel about something, it's not going to convince other people to change their minds. Good critics ask questions and find answers through research. Good critics question themselves and their ideas. There are two types of problems that we look at. The first one is a practical problem. That's a problem that asks you to do something to solve it. And then there's a conceptual problem. This helps us think about the world, but it's not immediately solvable. It's a big picture idea that by thinking through it, you'll learn something about the world and yourself. So the form of a thoughtful argument follows this format. First, you make a claim. That's a statement that you want us to believe, your audience. Then you give reasons. These are points that you're making. You want to make us believe by giving us evidence. So we should believe this because of this, this, and this. As you give these reasons, you should know your intention for making the claim, your whole purpose behind making the claim. You also want to understand the history of the topic that you're joining. What have people? Who are the experts in this about this topic? What have they been saying? What are the counter arguments? What does the other side say that's the opposite of what you say? Now, the three ways that you do give that you give your reasons is by using three different types of information. You provide logos, and that's appealing to the reader using reason and evidence. These are your facts and your figures. You can use pathos, and that's appealing to a reader's emotions by putting a human story on something. So instead of just telling us the facts of the figures of how many people are dying from pancreatic cancer each year, the pathos is you tell us an actual story of a person who's dying, so we can connect to the story. Your ethos is our persona as a trustworthy, open-minded source. And you want to establish your ethos early on in what you're writing. This is where you establish to readers that you aren't biased and that you're aware of the conversation that you're joining, and you also might have some expertise in this area that you're writing about. The reader throughout your essay or whatever you're writing is always asking the following questions. Why should I care? They're always asking for your purpose. And how do I figure out the answer to this question? So when you're writing your essay, how do you know if the reader knows why they should care? By asking your fellow students to read your paper, or by visiting me, your professor, in office hours. I can help you look at the purpose to make sure your purpose is coming across. So one way that the article introduces as a way to really think through your argument before you even draft your argument is to create an elevator story. And to create an elevator story, you figure out the question or problem your argument will address. Then you write down why that problem is important or interesting to you. And then you give an answer, or the proposed answer or solution you plan on arguing towards, and list any evidence you expect to find to support your answer. So we're going to be practicing using this information in our activities this week. First, I want to remind you, you have a writing assignment due. This is the one that was assigned last week and you did your pre-writing on. You're going to expand your pre-writing into a 3 to 4 page essay where you write about your own reaction to a theme or main idea that was found in Sontag's essay. You want to make sure that you use examples from the text, quotations, and your own personal experiences to support what you're saying. The final draft is not due until Wednesday, February 19th. It must be in MLA format. It needs to be in Times New Roman, that's 12-point font, and you need to upload a draft. Don't paste it into the assignment folder. There is a sample. There's a sample MLA drafted paper in Chapter 21 of the Bedford Researcher towards the end of the chapter. I encourage you to look at that to see what your paper should look like. This is just a reminder of what needs to be contained in an academic essay and is also posted with the assignment. Finally, this is a reminder that today we had our library visit in room 1738. Again, it was great to meet several of you, and I encourage the rest of you to visit the library, get your library card activated, or get a library card, and meet with Stephanie Gross to get information on how to use the databases, a tour of the library where the reference works are, and she'll be really helpful. So we're going to start off, you're going to read the Peggy Ornstein's article, What's Wrong with Cinderella? And I want you to read it with an open mind. People often have a very strong reaction to this essay. I want you to read it and think about, just try to understand what Ornstein's elevator story is. So we use elevator stories to create our own arguments, but we also use them to understand other people's arguments. So let's start by looking at Ornstein's elevator story. You want to find out, after you read the article through, go back and find out what the question or problem is that she's writing about and write it down. Then you want to say why the problem is interesting or important to Ornstein. So why is she interested in this particular topic or problem? And what answer does she propose, if any? And what kind of evidence does she use to support what she's saying? After you write all of that without giving your opinion, then you're going to write in the end whether or not you agree or disagree with Peggy, and then you're going to explain why. The best responses will include evidence that will explain why. Oh, and just a reminder, as usual, your own post is due on by Saturday at 11:59 p.m. and you need to respond to at least 3 of your peers' posts by the following Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. For your reflection this week, I want you to think more about the argumentative essay. How do arguments help us think critically? What do Williams and Kolob suggest that it's important to think of an argument? Why do Williams and Kolob suggest that it is important to think of an argument as the search for a solution to a shared problem, as opposed to a battle that must be won over an opponent? Why are good arguments crucial for living and working with others whose views may differ from our own? And why is it important for mature critical thinkers to be willing to test their own personal beliefs and admit the possibility that they are wrong? How might one test his or her beliefs successfully? So please answer this in your reflective journal this week. Finally, you'll be completing the next research lesson and research quiz in comp class, excuse me, locating research for various types of information needs. All right, that's it for this week, guys. Here's what we'll be doing next week. We will begin working on our next essay next week. Please come see me if you have any questions. All right, see you guys online.